Okay, so episode 2, Volcano. First impressions right off the bat.
Off the bat, I guess it's kind of interesting. You know, the premise of a volcano being near, I guess, the fictional town of South Park, or in real life, it's based on is Fairplay, Colorado, is like right in their backyard is not very realistic. But in the idea of like kind of nearby, it is realistic, like at least in real life. Uh, because in that area, they have majority of the volcanoes in the area are like at least close to Fairplay, the real town that South Park, the fictional one, South Park is based off of. There's a volcano, at least an inactive one, within like an hour and like 10-minute drive, and they got some others that are all within the range of like 2 hours to like 3.5 hours time for driving.
Yeah.
So it kind of fits, I guess, if you're stretching the imagination. Um, but at that point, I feel like some of them are near the city of Denver, so it would affect them more.
Yeah.
Which it did show them. They directed the lava in the actual episode to Denver,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
which is kind of funny.
So was that realistic at all?
Uh, Having a volcano nearby, yes, but that close nearby, realistically, no. But yet again, it's a cartoon, so
Yeah.
some creative liberties are obviously going to be taken.
But you like that part?
Yeah.
Because you have like a little bit of an interest in geology?
Yes.
Okay.
So that obviously struck a chord with me for being at least somewhat realistic with, of course, some creative liberties
Yeah.
of how close the volcanoes actually were. Uh, I do find it interesting how they took the kids hunting, and
Yeah.
it's kind of realistic. I know some people will take their kids out hunting like very very early. You know, uh, I do find it interesting of how I guess it's for comedic purposes, giving hunters a poor portrayal.
Yeah, do you think that it was like anti-hunter?
It just shows kind of like I guess kind of the worst in hunters, maybe.
It's kind of a liberal perspective, a little bit.
Not really, because like the fact that they shot like a supposedly said an endangered like species of black bear.
Yeah.
Like at least most like honorable hunters won't do that.
Yeah.
You know, 'cause there's also black bears, like common ones that you can just hunt. But it's also like kind of the weapons they use. Like they showed kind of like a shotgun, but for like a double barrel side by side, which somehow had two sights on the barrels, which but they don't do that. Typically, you're gonna have this little bead in the front for sighting in. When it makes it also like I guess you could hunt with it, but like deer, but I really wouldn't.
Yeah.
It's typically like a bird gun, but then also using like I guess an AR style. Like nowadays it's pretty common, but it's more in the AR-10 style, not the AR-15. The AR-15 style is more for like it's like home defense. So you see, but the AR-10 is chambered more for like higher calibers, like 308. Some of them you can get like 6.5. Uh, and so because of that, that's what most hunters, if they're using that kind of style, are gonna use. Um, and then one of them looked like it was a pellet gun, maybe, or maybe like a 22. But I find it funny as someone who's kind of a gun nerd, just like all the proportions were wrong.
Oh yeah.
It's really that cartoonish look
Yeah.
that some guns get in like certain like genres of like film. Occasionally, like trying to go for cartoon aspect, some like shows or even games.
It's really basic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, and then also, it's kind of interesting how Carbon's plan to scare people just completely backfires.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's like, I'm gonna scare these people, and then it just kind of gets ruined. Uh, but I do kind of find it funny how everyone's scared of. I already forgot the name, but like basically they're weird like mythical creature in the woods. Was it Scuzzlebutt?
Scuzzlebutt. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think that's cringy?
I think the name is
Yeah.
like I think it's kind of cringe, and even like the way it's portrayed is kind of weird.
Yeah.
Like it's always trying to be some like weird Bigfoot clone, kind of
Right.
aspect similar to it, but I don't think it does a very good job. Like, first of all, like I can understand maybe like having like some weird appendage, but a separate person that has like their own mind is kind of weird.
You think so? Yeah.
Because is it like a parasite or what? And then I don't know how the nervous system would work for that individual. Like, how do you separate those? Then also, like, why specifically celery? Like, why is he always holding celery? It doesn't make sense. Um, but yeah, I think the whole design of it is kind of cringe. But I guess it kind of flows into the wacky and weird nature of South Park in general.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think some of the humor's a little old, but that's about the only issue I have so far, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, what do you think of the mayor character? She annoying?
I don't know. I didn't find it super annoying, but it's just kind of weird how it's like, it's TV is typically not edited like news stuff.
Yeah.
It's pretty like live unless you're going into like a after show thing.
Yeah.
Like sometimes when you watch the news, like you get like the main like live news stuff goes on during an event, and then you might like later on in the night maybe get something that goes over with those events, but they're edited then.
Yeah, yeah.
I think it's kind of funny how she's like trying to act like all like sad about it, and she's like, oh hold on, and then she tries to act even more sad,
Yeah.
but it's like all on live TV, so they just know she's like completely bullshitting the entire thing.
Does that remind you of any politicians you've had any experiences with or of?
Yeah. I guess not really a mayor, but just watching as bad things will happen in like California, like just recently the fires, kind of in LA,
Yeah.
and watching how like on like Twitter, or X, I guess is what it's called. Gavin Newsom's like like, oh, my deepest condolences. I'm like so sorry for anyone that lost their homes. And then like on TV, like when you see him, he's just like straight face. He doesn't like give a damn at all.
Yeah.
It's interesting. That's kind of what it reminds me of.
Okay. Yeah.
But I feel like that can be said for a lot of politicians. Like they just kind of got that weird straight face that really just doesn't seem very human at all.
Okay. So, but do you think that any politicians are genuinely like care about their job?
I feel like some of them do.
Yeah.
Some of them are really in it for the betterment of people, but I feel like some people are in it kind of, as like they might go into that, but then they eventually become like very corrupt.
Yeah.
I could go into more of why I hate Newsom, but I don't think I should.
Why? Why not?
Well, he's like, I forget what it is, like nephew or something. Nephew or like, something like that, to like Nancy Pelosi. So, I already don't like Nancy Pelosi, and I also don't like Newsom. And of course, like, it seems like the apple doesn't fall very far from the tree. So, yeah, they're both corrupt, Don't really seem like they care about anyone but themselves.
Yeah.
I guess that also reminds me a bit of Nancy. We'll see, but yeah.
Yeah. What do you think of Randy's character?
Well, it's the first time, we see him.
Yeah.
But I find it's interesting, how he just works with like, geology within the like local area.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, typically
He's
like,
he's more normal in this one.
yeah, but what's interesting is like, we don't have typically for like people that are watching for seismic activity, we don't have them actively just watching the seismograph. There's, I guess that's how it was back in the day, and I don't really know the time period South Park's supposed to be based on.
Yeah.
But
that was 1996. So I'm assuming they were just based on the years they came out.
yeah, even then, we had like bits of like technology that would like alert us
Yeah.
to if something was happening. So it's not very realistic in that sense. You wouldn't have someone directly just watching it the whole time, but
Yeah.
we'd be pretty much just waiting for something to happen, and then we'd be alerted, and then of course then we'd go check.
Right.
But also the measurement of magnitude when he showed like the scale of how like screwed they were didn't really make much sense, because it went to totally screwed, but like the whole Richter scale is kind of thrown out the window because we measure them like of course in like certain points, but those points are within like 1 through like as high as it goes. I think what is it, 8 or 9?
Yeah.
Or whatever, but it goes through those points, and then in between them you're gonna get like 9.5 or something.
9.5.
But on the scale, it's like typically it's like a graph where you get like 1, and then you get the little notches in between. And you look at a graph, it's like, anywhere on this like graph, you get like one, then in between that, you can determine whether it's like 1.2 or like 1.7. But it was like, it went from like 1 to like 3.2 and then to like, what was it, like 6 point something. And then it went to like, you're screwed, which doesn't make sense. Because then it leaves a lot of up to the imagination between them.
Oh, so you're saying that wasn't realistic, that part?
No, when you would
Yeah.
look at the graph, it wouldn't go like in between
That
there.
was just cartoon logic?
Yeah, and also
Okay.
like the straight like curvature of it is not indicative because like you can have a strong earthquake, but if the buildings are built for it, then everything is fine. Like where I come from, like it's Southern California, so we're along the San Andreas Fault, but every building, even homes, they're like in order to be up to code, they have to be able to withstand like earthquakes. Obviously, they're not going to be as like built as tough as like some of the skyscrapers in LA, and that's understandable. Like they're pretty close to the ground, but it's still got stuff. So you wouldn't be screwed. But like let's say a place that is rarely seismically active, like I don't know. Take Montana for example. Like they're supposedly the third most seismically active state in the U.S., but all those seismic activities are super small,
Yeah.
and they're like so small that they're barely ever felt. And so you take something like that, and the buildings really don't need to be built for it. So if something large did happen, then they would be screwed.
Right.
And it is true, typically before an volcano erupts, there is some seismic activity that does follow it. So it's not super hard to believe, but typically, like I guess it starts to subside after the stuff erupts, which I guess it kind of showed. Of course, there's going to be more, but it doesn't like fully go away, but it's just lessened because the whole rumbling is as the pressure is building up, as you know, at the time magma, because when it's contained within the earth, it is considered magma.
Mm-hmm.
Once it reaches out, then it's considered lava. It's kind of funky, but as the pressure is building up, that's where you get those like earthquakes that happen before an eruption.
Oh, okay.
So it was correct, but no, I've never experienced one. I've been in earthquakes, of course, living in SoCal. You can feel them, but depending on the fault line, it'd be different. I don't know about volcanoes. I've never been near one that's erupted. I've been at one that has erupted before in Hawaii. I visited over the summer, and during that time, they did spewed lava out, and it was. I went at night, and we viewed the lava at night, which is very beautiful because it glows at night.
Yeah.
But I can't tell if it's gonna be like aftershocks like a normal earthquake. There'd probably have to be more research done, but typical earthquakes, just normal ones. Your first one, you got your aftershock afterwards. Occasionally, you can have a few, and depending where it is, if it's in the water, then that can cause a tsunami, but nothing too bad.
Right.
Like where I'm from.
So, overall rating?
For that episode, it's interesting. The portrayal of hunters and the whole aspect of it being somewhat realistic with some creative liberties of the volcano nearby.
I thought it was more annoying than the pilot. The humor was a little more annoying.
Yeah,
Or like cringe.
I would admit the humor wasn't all there. The pilot had a bit more. It still seemed like it followed that kind of, I don't know, like, maybe not quite TV-14 humor, but it felt like it was like there almost.
Yeah.
The like pilot or episode 1. So with that in mind, following some realistic, so obviously they had some knowledge of what was going on. I would say I like the realistic aspect of it, so I'd say I don't know, like 7 instead. Like the humor was a bit worse, but I like the realism of like what would be around the area.
Okay.
What would you rate it?
I give the first one a 6, so I'm going to give this one like a 6.5.
All right, that's what I gave the first one.
Yeah, so just because I've seen all of the episodes, so comparing it to those, I just know what they're capable of. So and we'll get into that more as things progress. But that's basically that.
Yeah.
Anything else, or we good?
I think it's good.
Yeah. All right. See you guys in the next one then.